Anyway, he's able to use his iPhone because you can put your finger over certain parts of the screen and it'll read you where it is on the screen and give you feedback and stuff like that. But he carries on a normal day-to-day business life because of technology. And while we think the iPhone and the iOS, and in fact now there's new access things in the Mac that Mountain Lion has brought out, we think it's marvelous. But what they've done for people with special needs are just phenomenal. So, Bryce, come on in. We can probably find a seat somewhere for you. Are there any extra chairs in the back? Oh, okay. In fact, I should get a photo here because there's always a question about my class count. So I'm going to say it's always like this. So I promise to blur out everybody's face. All right. But the accessibility features are just phenomenal in the iOS devices. So back to where we were, Al, here. See if we can add to an existing note. Did you mean a note on the phone or did you mean a note on Mac? Or both? Yeah, you can do it. So this is how I add more messages to an existing note, comma, I guess messages wasn't probably the right word, exclamation mark, new line. This is how you make a new carriage return is you say new, then line, new line, and then you keep talking, and if you want a double space, you say, comma, new paragraph. Cap, this. Yep, and that's fine. It didn't, I meant to say caps for that. So, new line is just a simple carriage return. Okay, or if Rocky has his little, we need the little thing like you have. Rocky has the thing he showed in the last meeting where when you type, it sounds like a typewriter and you hit return, it goes ding! We need that on you. Or we can just say ding and maybe it'll do a return. So that's one return, and then to skip a line is new paragraph. And you have to speak your punctuation. My recommendation is think of things in phrases because that'll force you to probably punctuate it. But secondly, it allows you to, and you got to practice with it. It's the ding, okay, yeah, I guess I'll start. Oh, I guess it's time, bing, time's out. So just practice with it, and you'll learn diction, and it's not that you have to go real slow. It's not that you have to go with a cadence that works for you, and it will probably work for dictation. We had one back here first. How do you bring up the mic? That I'm going to show you when we go into the things, but you double tap the function button to bring it up. And when you're done speaking, comma, you double tap the function button again, period.
And then I'm assuming this works in
I'm sorry?
Besides notes, there's other.
Doesn't work in Word, and you shouldn't use it anyway.
Until they come out with the next version.
Somebody asked if it worked in Pages. Come on. It's got to work in Pages. That's how I did my note this morning. Let's do it with big text here, because that'll make it more dramatic. If I do it with large text, it's like I'm speaking louder, comma, but cap, all caps, would be like shouting, period. Yeah, I can't get the cap thing to work. There's a cap. So I'm just going to hit Command-Z.
What if I were to say, I'm doing research on the Jurassic period?
That's a good question. I'm a hockey fan. I used to play a bit of hockey. So we tested that with Siri because I'm a fan of the Jurassic period, new line. And this shows that it will take it correctly, period. It was a good question. Because we did hockey, doesn't have quarters or anything, it has 3 periods, so we said that. I'm not going to try hockey puck because we don't know what will come back. So. Friends of mine and I were talking about hockey one day. We were talking puck because we were playing hockey and said, yeah, he hit the puck to the net. And we were at this Mongolian barbecue place, and this it was the nicest kid in the world that was there, and And we had gone on. It was about 15 minutes later, and he comes up. He's a little bit of a special needs kind of person, but he was very nice and friendly. But he comes up, and as he's leaving, he goes, "You guys shouldn't talk like that. You just shouldn't." and we're like, "What did we say?" And then we realized after he'd left, oh, we had been saying puck for hockey, puck, and he totally thought it was the other thing. So be careful with Siri. Now, I do a lot of typos. You'll notice Siri will never give you a typo. You may get something out of context, or two may not be correct. She does do a pretty good job with context on that, but she'll never have a typo because she uses a dictionary. So it's what's coming back to you has already been vetted. In fact, that's how it knows. If I mumble a word, and she's going to try make it be something. When it comes back, if she's not sure, she might put a blue line under it and say that there's some other choices. If you say mine or mind or whatever, she can come back with other choices. So play with it. It's fun. Got to have an internet connection. Go ahead, Gail. Then we'll get back to some others here.
Where are the best places to find the tips on how to better use Siri? Is something built, or dictation, is something built into the help, or are there other websites that you recommend?
If you email me, I'll try to remind me, and what I'll do is try to post some up there too. Basically, in Siri itself, on the phone and on Siri, you can say, "What can I say?" and a list comes up. Because I can do things, and okay, this is like that old Ford commercial when the guy gets in when he says, "Oh, play something out of the playlist." Play songs by Enya.
Here's your Enya.
Now, those of you that don't have Siri can still do this with your voice control. It's playing. You can't really hear it, but okay. We talked about while you're driving and stuff too. If you don't have Siri on your phone, you can do that, but you can also tell your phone to call someone in your address book by pressing and holding the button, same as Siri, and a little thing comes up that has voice control. So you press and hold and say, dial 916-213-4596, which is my own number. So it will dial that. I probably said a lot of stuff here. But your regular phone without Siri will do that. So you can tell it what songs to play, and you can speak the dialing. Okay, back to dictation.
Question. On your dictation, what if you have an odd surname, it's spelled wrong?
I'm sorry?
You have an odd surname, and of course, they may not recognize it.
Well, I was just going to bring up the other point of, not only does dictation use the dictionary, it uses your address book. Proper names are the hardest things for dictation. So I have one client named Ann Young, and it's a short first name and a short last name. It's really hard to have it find her. You can create nicknames. A good friend of mine, we just jokingly, his nickname Schnitzel. So instead of saying, call Jerry Shelton, I say, call Schnitzel, and it says, calling Jerry Shelton. So you can put a nickname in your address book and use that. But as long as they're in your address book, it should pull it out. Yes, thank you. No, for most of you, it's still your address book, right? How's that? And you know what? Keep hammering that on me, because that's how I learned how to not say everything's good. I'm doing well, thank you.
There is going to come a time where the wrong word's going to show up there. How do you correct that?
You're going to have to do it manually at this point. In the dictation, because it's kind of even though it's interactive in chunks. The one that works on the computer, when I use the Mac Dictate, I can say scratch that, and it takes whatever my last little phrase was and goes back. But I got to point out, have you ever heard of Apple releasing a beta to the public? Siri is beta. You ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to be able to say, switch to my mail application. Read me my last 3 emails. Stuff like that. I mean, that's within the next year, I would bet. So, couple other questions. Go ahead.
Hopkins dictation on pages. I have Microsoft Office for Apple. Will that, all of that work on my Office?
Okay. Will Office work or will the dictation work? Which are you asking?
Both.
Well, work is a matter of whether it works or not. It never works. It only ever works okay. But it's a Microsoft product. To work in Lion and Mountain, well, excuse me, to continue to be able to fire it up in Mountain Lion or Lion. Oh, good, big updates, always updates, you piece of junk. How do I really feel? Actually, I got to admit, I'm a real expert at Excel, and I use Excel for a lot of times. So if I'm just going to quick do something, I'll fire up Excel rather than numbers because I can pound those formulas out a little quicker and stuff. But numbers are great. But pages, there's no question I'm not opening Word because now about 30% of my computer resources are being used up. But it goes back to if you have Office 2008 and 2011, it will fire up in Lion and Mountain Lion. I don't want to say it works. The new 2013 coming out will actually be more of an online thing, and this will be the first time where the PC version and the Mac version will be on the same year, and it's really going to be a cloud kind of based thing. So, which, by the way, note on that, you guys can go claim your own email name at outlook.com. That's what they're calling Hotmails became Outlook, and it's actually not too bad. I'm experimenting with it and stuff, but you can get a free email out there, and it's really not too bad. But let's try dictation. Oh, comma, it seems like it works, period. But then again, works, comma, is all relative, exclamation mark. You know what's funny is I tried it in some app this morning and I thought it was Word and it didn't work.
Grammatical error, what's that there?
Oh, it must be Word's fault. No. No. Yeah, is all. I said it's, but it's early. But see, I can't. If this were on the phone and you'd have a little blue underline, just so you know, you tap it and it will give you alternate choices. There's probably a way. Oh, there we go. See, I hit my control and then that came up. And grammar, yeah, good luck, Ken. All right, so it does appear to work. I have 2011 on here. It should work in 2008 also. 2004, Microsoft Office 2004 and previous will not work in Lion or Mountain. Okay, John?
On your lecture notes, you did this on your computer at home, did it this morning?
Yeah.
Could you have just sent that to the cloud and used your phone? Or do you have to have it?
Very, yes. And that's what I'll go into it right now since you asked. So, for instance, my keynote presentation, same thing. You can pick it up on my iPad. If you look here now, with the new iWork 9.2, or it's actually Pages 4.2, when I go to, we've got two features here. This is really important because people have been yelling about part of it. I'm going to show you here how I go to Save. Look at what I have as a choice. The iCloud. Or I can just save it like I always have. Okay? So I still can save it locally, or I can save it on the iCloud. Why would I want to save it on the iCloud?
Use it all, get it on your phone, use it at all devices.
And then if I save it to the cloud, now, I always thought I was a hoarder till I saw those shows, and I'm one that like keeps things because I might need it somewhere here and there. If you're going to keep it on the cloud, keep one copy, and don't keep it on your computer also, unless you're not going to be able to be connected to the cloud, because if you keep the one on the cloud and I fire it up on my iPad and I make corrections, it goes back to the cloud. If I have a second computer, the one that's there is the one that I'm making and doing the work with. The beauty of your documents on the cloud also are that it does versioning. So as you're working, it's automatically saving it to the cloud. But how many times have we built this wonderful newsletter flyer and we got this and we do this, and you know the old adage is just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, but we always want to put more filigree around this and do it. And you look and you go, God, this looked better 15 minutes ago. You can actually go back and say, well, give me the one from 15 minutes ago and start back from there. So that is in Mountain Lion, was supposed to happen in Lion, but it's happened in Mountain Lion. That's the real key in the beauty of the cloud is all your stuff's there from all your devices, and you know what? It's not going away.
Can I then share this cloud document with you personally?
You can share it, and it essentially will be linked from the cloud that way.
Yes.
And they're increasing what you can do with sharing. And to be honest, I've only had it a week or so I haven't really explored all the features of that yet. But no, don't get rid of your Dropbox. It's the best. That's the best thing going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And some of you were here for the Dropbox class. Pete couldn't make it, so you all came in here. I had one back there first, and then you.
Well, so there's still a use for Dropbox or Evernote?
Very much so.
Even though you have iPad?
Yeah, but I think the cloud, the whole idea is Dropbox, we still want this manual control. We want to see a file move to here and, come back. And that's not a Luddite. That's just the way we are with the stuff. Dropbox does that, and Dropbox does it wonderfully. The cloud will start to get in that territory a little bit, but right now the cloud storage only, you won't do it for Microsoft. The Microsoft document won't go to the cloud. Just Apple text edit, if you want to do a quick note. If you don't have Pages or Keynote, just use the text edit program. It works on the cloud great. So, and yours.
Yeah, with the cloud, is there no way to get text messages on the computer?
That's coming up. I'll show you.
Recently, I was in Washington, D.C. for a national conference at a big library with a very important database. Well, they had a big storm, and we had power in the library, but the server went out. So we couldn't access any of their database. So if I had everything put on iCloud and I don't keep a copy on my computer, and I need to do a presentation and I can't access it, I mean, can you still... That's what I'm...
It's in Maiden, North Carolina, and if you drive up to this $1 billion, 500,000 square foot building,
Guard will tell you to get lost.
it's in many places, and it's spread out amongst the cloud. Yes, it can go down, but the likelihood or the happens, I mean, they might have scheduled maintenance times, but they're also putting a new one in Reno. They're putting a new data center in Reno, and they're looking at one up in Oregon. It's spread out already, and you don't have to worry about losing data because that's what these data centers do. And you got to remember, Apple spends a ton of money on good, strong security. They'd rather spend $20 million extra on strong security than take a $200 million hit on a bad name on things that get broken into. Which brings up another good point. A guy just got his. I have one of the simplest Apple ID passwords there is. If you were in last month's class about passwords, I need to change it because some guy on one of the blogs online just got his iCloud account hacked. It was not Apple. It was somebody guessed his password, and they got his Gmail. They reset his phone. They did all this other stuff, and it was just most hacking is like tagging, graffiti, vandalism, But anyway, I'm going to make mine more secure. So.
But we need an internet connection.
Yes.
For iCloud.
Yes, and otherwise you can store it locally. You can go back to last decade and do it the way we've always done it, which is the way I'm doing it occasionally too. When I do a presentation, I'll have it on a thumb drive. I'll have it on a DVD. If I've got a really strong, I have usually 4 backups or 4 ways. Keith?
I was on a webinar last week that they had a discussion about the differences between Dropbox and iCloud and what works for one. iCloud is great for sharing things with your own devices. You have multiple computers or iPads or iPhones. It works for sharing your stuff with your devices. Dropbox works much better for sharing your stuff with somebody else who may have a different operating system, who may have a PC, who may have an older version.
He shares files on Dropbox with his wife, and she's on a PC, which, right, but it works very well for them.
So Dropbox is better for sharing with other people that you work with, and iCloud is better for sharing stuff with your other devices.
And that's a great point. iCloud's in its infancy, and it's going to expand and do more and more. Like if you have iPhoto on your iPad, you're able to put links to your photos up there in what's called journaling. So the old Mobile Me gallery we used to have and love, we're going to get some of that back. We're due for a new iPhoto very soon. We're also due for, because we're due for new Keynote pages and numbers too, because we're at 09, but you know, we'll see. A couple other quick questions right here.
Does it work on all browsers with the dictation?
I don't know if it works on Chrome. It works on Safari. I'll fire that up in a sec here. I have too many windows. It's going to bog the internet down for a minute, so I'll come back to that. Go ahead.
A couple of questions. First of all, are you limited in space on iCloud?
Good question. If you had Mobile Me before, your iCloud shows that you have 25 gigabytes available. That goes till September 30th, and then it will be down to your free 5 gigabytes. So you get 5 gigabytes for free. Also, if I take and use PhotoStream on iCloud with my iPhone, or like the pictures I took this morning and last night, they go up to PhotoStream. PhotoStream will hold my 1,000 most recent photos as long as they're less than 30 days old. Okay? So that doesn't count against your 5 gigabytes. But the stuff you're going to be storing on iCloud, tell you, documents take up very little room at all. That's going to be plenty, but for $40 a year, you get another 20 gigabytes, and you can go incrementally up from that. So we talked about an iTunes account and an App Store account should be the same in the family. As long as you don't want to share an address book or share a calendar, everyone should have their own iCloud email address. Each of you gets 5 gigabytes. And the iCloud email address gets free from Apple. You can go get, and it's called an email address, but you don't have to use the email, but it's for syncing of your devices, extra storage, syncing amongst all of your devices. It's something at me.com, and I would go and do that fairly quickly because they're going to stop having the me.com available. It'll still work, but if you haven't signed up for a me.com, it's going to be iCloud.com going forward. So you can go get it free, and I'll tell you, because there's not as many people using me.com as there are using Gmail or Yahoo, you're more likely to get a name that you like and a shorter name. So, all right.
And Jan, is your email going to take up part of the 5 gigabytes?
That's a great question. Is the email take up? Yes, it does. The email storage. So you need to manage your storage accordingly. But that's a good amount for me. You know what? We used to pay $100 a year for Mobile Me. I'm not going to have a problem if I'm not going to worry about it if I have to pay $40 to get another 20 gigabytes. So because I like the me.com mail, but I have a feeling they may start to expand that a bit too. They don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. They'd rather say 5 gigabytes and maybe get you some more later. Your question about can we use it in a browser? Can I use the search dictation in a browser? So now it'll Google search that. So, oh, actually, what can I? So you'd asked earlier. Now dictation, we talked about it won't do it. Now I have kind of brought down my internet. What things can I ask Siri? So I'll let that go for a minute. So any Apple things that, any Apple apps, notes, mail, that's where you're going to use dictation. It works perfectly. Any non-Apple apps, it's a possibility. Rocky, go ahead.
You actually have to go to the website. You say www.com.
No, because it's not Siri. It's only In here, it's strictly dictation. It will do whatever you say. Siri will say, when you tell Siri, go to apple.com, it will do that, or it'll search the web. She'll eventually go to it. But in here, remember, it doesn't have that artificial intelligence component that Siri has. It's strict. Whatever you say is what it will type. We'll try it. www.apple.com. So now I could hit enter. Actually, I could just say apple.com, and it would do that. But I still have to hit return. And so this brings up another point. Safari looks a little different. Remember, we used to have the Google search bar in the upper right? Now we have a unified address bar. So what that means is if I type apple.com, well, again, I'm sorry, my internet, I just had a bunch of web pages that I had opened up because I have a few things going on. But now this is also the search bar. So if you have a bookmark and I start typing, let's say Empower Mac, see it auto-fills the Empower Mac and it gives me this other stuff. Or I can just say Empower Mac, get rid of that, and just it does a Google search. So it'll either, if you have a bookmark and you start typing in the first few letters of that bookmark, that'll come up, things like that. So the unified search bar is now, or the unified address bar is both the website address and the search. I don't like it as well. It's going to take some getting used to. That's one thing I really liked, was going up to the Google search bar. Yeah, but I think a lot of people never even got used to using the one over there. But no, I tend to agree. But who knows? All right. We'll answer more dictation questions after the thing because we kind of beat that to death. I want to go through some of the tweaks we need to do to make Lion, but more particularly Mountain Lion, look and feel like what we're used to, because we're resistant to certain parts of change because we're so used to it. So I'm going to go into System Preferences. Actually, I'll show you what we're doing here. I'll hide Safari. I can hide pages. Command H is how you hide things, by the way. All right. I'm going to go first into General. And those of you that upgraded, you lost your scroll bars. Anybody notice that?
Yes.
Anybody else ticked off about it?
Yes.
To get them back, you go into here and say always. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. Here is how it was before. So if I go into a Finder window, and let's go into one that's a pretty big window like this. The scroll bar is on the right side. Oh, it went away. Oh, I'm scrolling. Oh, there it is. Okay, I want to go to, oh, it went away. It's like, as soon as you get to it, it goes away. But it shows up when you're scrolling. Well, I want to go over and I want to grab it. So I go like, okay, I got it. Okay. Whew. That was easy. There's still no up and down arrows there. But let me show you, this is what you want to do. The first tweak is go here and say show always. It's not like it takes up so much extra space, Apple. Okay, we don't have to be that minimalist, okay? Now it's there. Now, how many people have been thrown off by what's called this natural scrolling, or scrolling turned upside down? Only one, two, okay. Do you understand why in Lion and Mountain Lion they did that? In the olden days, we need old-timey music when I say that. In the olden days, we essentially, remember the little up and down arrows? It was like we were scrolling the scroll bar. Let me go in. I'm going to turn this the other way so you can see. So we'll go into trackpad. Okay, here's the old way. If I move this, if I scroll my mouse or use my 2-finger, don't forget 2-finger scrolling if you have a trackpad. If I scroll up, I'm moving the scroll bar up, right? And here I'm moving, as I'm moving my fingers down, I'm moving the scroll bar down. That's the way we're used to. But Apple said, you know what? That's pretty counterintuitive because we're really trying to move the page. So they said, let's do natural scrolling, and they encourage you to try it, and try it for 2 weeks, and you'll love it. And the idea now is when I scroll up, the page moves up, and when I scroll down, the page moves down, and it's the same way we all do it on the iPad and the iPhone. And it makes more sense. That's why they called it natural scrolling. They're not arrogant at all. They just called it natural scrolling. And it makes a lot of sense. Resistance is futile. Go ahead and go to that one. That one's okay. But let's leave the scroll bars up because I want to see what I have, and I still can go over and grab my scroll bar. So again, that first one is show all, general, always. Now, let's say I'm in system preferences and Ken covered that pretty quick. I can't remember where it is. There's a little search window up here. They haven't gotten rid of that yet. I'm sure it's coming. I just type in scroll and look at what happens. Scroll is inside those preferences. And then look, it even shows me what I'm looking for. So it highlights where I can adjust it, but also gives me the pull down. This has happened since Snow Leopard, or maybe even Leopard, that it highlights the preferences. So you don't email Ken and say, how do I do this? Because I'll say, well, go ahead and Google it and find out. But here you can just do it yourself. Okay? We want to empower you to be able to do the thing yourself, so you can come to me when you have really hard questions. But believe me, those little stumbling blocks like that are okay. So scroll, and it's scroll bars, and I say always. I don't change anything else on this page with the exception of recent items, recent documents, recent applications, and recent servers. Okay, everybody uses that a lot. You can increase the number you want there, and what that does is when you go up to the Apple logo and come down to recent items, that's how many of those you want in each category. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go through more of these system preferences, but hang on here. I will point out that if you have a mouse or a trackpad, I don't have a mouse present on this, I'll show you the trackpad. The system preferences for it are wonderful. There's little movies. As I hover over tap to click, it shows me what I do with that. Secondary click, which is really useful. Those of you that are used to right click on a mouse, that's what we call secondary click. There's different ways to do it. I have a lot of choices to do it. I choose to use 2-finger click on my trackpad. Remember, since the iPhone came out, we have multi-touch capability. We have multi-touch capability on our trackpads on any computer that works with Lion and Mountain Lion. Secondary click, 2-finger. Look up, this is one that's pretty neat. You tap, not click, but tap 3 times over a word. We'll show you. If I tap 3 times, oops. I know I did 3-finger tap twice is what I need. I just one single 3-finger tap, and it gives the dictionary. Okay? So look up, 3-finger drag. I don't really use that. It's a bit of a drag. Scroll direction, that's what we talked about, is natural. Zoom in and out. This is really good. Those of you that are familiar with your iPhone and different things, if I go to, well, let's go to, okay, a little plugging here. By the way, this was still made on iWeb. I can zoom out by taking my fingers and moving them apart, or I can squeeze my fingers in. But another way to do it is the way a lot of us use our Google Maps. Oops. Come on, settle down, Tiger.
Pause that. That happens
I did multiple fingers up is what it was. I did a swipe thing. Okay, smart zoom. Now this is another nice one, double tap. So if I double tap, two fingers, two finger taps, not clicks, taps. Even though I don't have tap enabled on my track. This is very useful of if, let's say we go to cnn.com. I'll try not to spoil any Olympics. Turn your head if you're watching it. I'll try not to go to an Olympic site. We'll go to some news site. There, West Nile virus. That's more interesting. So if I'm in an article, hello, raise your hand if you got a chair somewhere. There's a couple here, one back there. So when I'm in an article like this, if I do the two finger double tap, it zooms in, two finger out. Okay? Good question. Yeah, so if I go here, double tap in, and now I can use just regular scrolling within that. And what this uses is the web pages are built kind of on frames, and so what it does is it goes to the frame size you need, but it won't overdo it. I think we're about the limit on our, we could still go wider. Question here?
I have a hard time, I just got one of those pads next to a computer. Moving things from one place to another, a lot of times I run out of space on the pad before I get to where I want to go. Like a folder into a mail folder or something like that.
Wow. Well, I have a tendency to use mine the old way where we used to have a clicker and a trackpad. I use my thumb as the clicker because it's real hard to click and slide one finger, I find. So I use my hand. The old trackpads were this way. And there was a little bar here. And so I would click with this, and I'd move with this finger, and I can lift it up. While holding down the clicker, I can, kind of like lifting up your mouse, to go farther. You click and hold. Well, now that's not there, but I still do it exactly the same way.
Yeah, because I've always used the roller ball, and
Yeah, I'm a trackball person myself.
And I'm trying this thing, and there's a lot of stuff out
Yeah.
there about it, but I do run out of space.
So I'm going to show you here, like I'm going to click and hold, and I can, did I miss it? Anyway, you can click, actually here's a good example. We'll go here to Finder, and we'll say hide others. So if I'm going to draw this, see I can click and hold and draw. I keep my thumb down, and I lift my finger, and I can keep going all the way across. So again, I'm holding down, and I'm going to the edge, keeping my thumb down.
Then you could just.
The same thing as when you did with your mouse, you click it, or with the roller ball, you'd hold the selector button and you roll the ball.
Does that save it on your screen?
I'm sorry?
Does that save it on your screen?
No, I'm just drawing a circle. If I was doing a screen capture, I would do that, but was just trying to draw a marquee is what it is. Okay, so we got scrolling out of the way. Now, okay, go ahead.
If your team has a too short, you can use both hands.
I don't recommend that because it's multi-touch, but it creates, then you got too many fingers over it, and inevitably you're going to put too many fingers down. This works just fine even with short fingers because you just do it more times. Because it's multi-touch, what happens is if another finger happens to be touching, it's the mistake. The one mistake my mom has when she's typing on an iPad is you have a tendency to let other fingers touch. And the beauty is that it can sense up to 5 fingers at any one time, or more probably if you had both hands on it. But it also is a little bit of messes you up because if 2 things are touching, you can see it does different things when 2 things are touching than when 1 thing is. So, moving on. Let's do that because then we'll come back and we'll do the changes we want to make in Mail, and then we'll hit some more of these system preferences. So, don't let me forget, I'm going to record when we get back. Hang on one sec here.